Looking for reliable and convenient personal safety products? Less Lethal has you covered. As Canada's only authorized Byrna distributor, we provide a range of products for recreation, protection, and security. Explore our Byrna launcher lineup, including the LE, SD, TCR, and Mission 4, designed for different levels of performance and protection needs. We also offer the Banshee personal safety alarm, designed to protect children, women, and vulnerable individuals. Because your safety is our top priority. Shop now at lesslethal.ca.
Here we go again. We're at St. John's, and this is the East Coast tour continuing. We're at the Jag Hotel, beautiful hotel, and we're lucky enough to have Terry Hart today. Hey Terry, how you doing?
Good morning, how you doing?
Good, good.
Good.
Hey Terry, so, Blair, a good friend of ours,
yes,
is coming to town, and he said, I gotta meet Terry Hart. And there's a number of reasons. One is about a show you did, which I want to kick off on, which I thought was such a cool story. It was the good news, basically the good news story of the day, or good news guy. Yeah. And you were basically, you've had a media career that spanned 46 years. Mm-hmm. You spent 25 years in radio with VOCM.
Correct.
Yeah. Tell us how you came up with this idea, or how did this idea start?
It happened when I was in Grand Falls, Windsor, which is the central part of our province. And I was a news reporter, but I also did a little chat every morning live about what's going on around the province, around our town, that kind of thing. So there's only 500,000 people in Newfoundland and Labrador. Mm-hmm. And I always said to myself, well, if there's something negative happening, you're going to hear it, and they'll probably get 3 or 4 minutes to play in the media. And I was saying to myself, well, if somebody starts business with 10 or 15 jobs, they might get 20 seconds, if at all. So I said, well, people want to hear about the good news. The negative news, or news that will happen anyway, is going to be there, and people are going to hear it. But what I was thinking was that with the good news aspect, people would probably never hear about some of the good things, somebody getting recognition for some award, or some business starting up and creating jobs in the local area to employ people. So that's where it all started, and I had a great response to it from day one.
Yeah, I can see why. That's part of why we started the podcasting, quite frankly, is number one, I never thought we got enough detailed coverage of events. Number two, I didn't think we highlighted the good things happening enough. And so part of what we do is not only, we have 9 pillars, economy, politics, but we also have happiness. Right, and
very important.
That happiness, yeah, exactly, right. If you can't figure out your happiness zone in life, it's hard to have a good life, right?
I hear you.
Yeah, and so good news for people is super important, especially when they're starting their day. Mm-hmm. We're from Central Canada, as I was talking to you about before. Getting up in the morning and hearing about shootings and robberies and carjackings, that's tough, right?
Exactly.
So it's good to hear that things are happening, and we're constantly growing. And so, I was going through your bio, and the thing that popped out, and I got to ask you about right away, because, I never knew this happened. The TWA flight that actually was hijacked in the beginning, and that was like in 1976?
Yeah, it was around that, or late 70s, early 80s. So long time ago.
So how did you, so you were working, or you were off shift?
That happened. I just started 2 weeks vacation.
Okay.
It's a Friday night around 12 o'clock. I was just home relaxing in Grand Falls, Windsor. Mm-hmm. And I got a call from Canadian Press in Montreal saying that there's been a plane hijacked going from New York to Chicago.
Right.
And they had about 70, 80 passengers or more on it. And they said the plan was, apparently a bunch of people that in Europe that weren't happy with what was going on in Czechoslovakia and the split up in the country and all that. The Croatians, that's right, exactly right.
Yeah.
And so they said, well, they got this plane. They wanted to get some attention to their cause, and they were took the flight that was going from New York to Chicago and said, nope, we're going to Europe. So they flew to Montreal, and then I got calls that we would like you to, you got to be up to Gander. So which is about an hour's drive from my home.
Yeah.
And so I got into midnight, and I got into the VOCM vehicle, and with the little yellow light going on top, and I went on and passed a couple of police cars on the way. It's not illegal. I should have been ticketed. Anyway, they were going to the same place, I'm sure. And so we got in Gander, waiting around 3 or 4 hours. So the plane eventually landed at Gander International Airport. And it's on the tarmac. And these guys were supposed to be loaded down with explosives and arms and assault weapons and that kind of thing. And so anyway, they were there on the ground for about an hour, talking back and forth. And he eventually asked the RCMP, they wanted to speak to a news reporter. I was the only one there at the time.
Yeah.
And so the head guy, Inspector Bond, who had come in from Ottawa before the crisis or the situation, and they said, we'd like for you to go out and talk to him. I said, I'm not going to go there. You know, that's their guy likes guns and everything else and ammunition. I'm not going. That's crazy. So anyway, they came back about 10 minutes later and said, well, yeah, okay. We'd really like you to go because they want to speak to media.
Right.
I said, okay. You know, apprehensive, of course. And so I was going to go out and get ready to get in the police car in Gander Airport and to drive down to the end of the runway where the plane was at. And they got a call just before I got into the vehicle. Said, no, it was all off. We're leaving. So the plane eventually left Gander, went to Iceland, went to London, went to Paris and landed. And the police in Paris came up, shot the tires from under the plane, and they all surrendered. That was the end of it.
Wow.
That was quite a story. Went on for a nice while.
Yeah, and pretty dangerous too. So apparently, in New York, one of the officers was killed trying to decommission the bomb to detonate. You know, they detonated and, quite frankly, injured one of them and killed the other. But no one knew if they actually had explosive on the planes, right? Yeah, so on the plane.
Yeah.
Wow, crazy stuff.
Yeah, it was interesting stuff. And I interviewed a lot of the passengers after that. They let off in Gander. I think they let off around 30.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah, and so I interviewed some of them. They were naturally frightened to death, so to speak.
Yeah.
But you know, luckily it ended up without any more further incidents or deaths or anything.
I wonder if they ever flew again.
I don't know.
Yeah, it's interesting. I was just thinking about that when I was reading the story on the way in. I'm thinking, I don't know if I'd fly again if I was hijacked, right? Cause
no.
I'm a tough
pretty
flyer.
Crazy, right?
Yeah, I'm not a good flyer to begin with.
Yeah. But Gander International Airport, of course, the fly started because it built up before the Second World War. They started building because he recognized there would be a need for some stopovers between Europe and Gander would be the first landing point. Yeah. And so after that, a lot of international stories happened in Gander, you know, like the air crash with all the 256 Americans and crew that were killed going from Virginia home to the United States, and I think down around Washington, and in Kentucky, actually. And, you know, I was there that morning broadcasting a lot of reports on that incident. And, you know, I met Muhammad Ali there and interviewed him at Castro in his early days. And,
oh, you did?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. He was going from Moscow to New York, over there visiting Moscow, and he had to land in Gander for a refueling stop. And again, my contacts in the airport let me know, so I drove to the airport. And lucky enough to get an interview with him, and he put on quite a show for the locals there. He was there.
What did you think? I'm so amazed. I've never met anyone who met Muhammad Ali. Yeah,
well, he put on a good show because he was so friendly with all the people there.
Yeah,
waiting that hour and a half for the plane to be refueled or less. And there's a guy there who was one of the maintenance people cleaning the floors and that kind of stuff, and he went over and shadow boxed with him, and you know, put on a good laugh for the people. So he was very good. And a good interview too.
Oh, really? Yeah. What a life, right? At the end of the
and like I said, I did an interview with Fidel Castro 3 times over the years, and his brother, in Gander.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because they were again refueling stops from Havana to United Nations. Of course, they weren't allowed in the States anyway, but the United Nations is sacred ground, so to speak. So I interviewed him 3 times, and, you know.
Thoughts on, you know, when you interviewed him, what were your...
Big, imposing guy, but he was very good. But when I interviewed him, he could speak English, but he always spoke through the interpreter when I was doing the interview. I guess it gave him time to think about the questions or whatever.
Yeah.
But he was very good. A light side of the story that the last time I interviewed him, he gave me a box and some of the other people there that were locals of his Monte Cristo cigars.
Oh, okay.
So I didn't smoke, never did, luckily. And so I just took them, threw them up on the shelf, instead of, never thought it didn't go in my head about preserving them, wrapping them in cellophane or whatever, to preserve them.
Yeah.
And he dropped them and fell apart, but I was saying, what a keepsake, right?
Yeah.
From Castro.
Oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, the Trudeaus loved him, right? Or liked him
yeah.
quite a bit. They had quite a relationship.
And Joey
with him.
Smallwood, the first Premier Newfoundland and Labrador, him and Jeff Sterling, a medium mogul from NTV. Mm-hmm. They were there, and they went to Cuba trying to get an interview. They never did.
Right.
But they were back and forth trying to get some interviews with him.
Yeah. Well, it's
that was
so
quite
sad.
exciting.
I don't know if you're watching now. It's so sad to watch what's happening to Cuba, and
my goodness, it's hard to believe, right?
It is hard to believe, with the lack of electricity and power, and
they're being cut off, and so sad.
It is so sad.
Yeah.
It's a humanitarian crisis that we don't realize.
Absolutely.
Right? So I hope that gets resolved soon in some shape or form.
Me as well, and a lot of people.
Yeah, it's a shame. So, hey, Terry, I was, Hall of Fame induction. So you had quite a few. Baseball here, you've been in the Hockey Hall of Fame, the Baseball Hall of Fame. You had the King Charles III Coronation Medal. So, just a great career, right?
Yeah,
and
I had a lot of fun. I was fortunate, good timing and all that kind of stuff, but it was great. And it started off, I always loved baseball, still followed the Blue Jays all the time. And
what about the Red Sox?
I'm a big Red Sox fan as well. Yeah, they were my team, but they got to call them the Canadian hoopla the last number of years when they were doing okay. And last year, of course, I went to the World Series.
Oh, did you?
Saw the last 2 games.
Oh, that boy.
Yeah,
Good,
so that was great.
Yeah.
But I loved baseball. I served on the provincial baseball executive here for a lot of years, and in my hometown of Grand Falls, Windsor, I was on the executive there for 20 plus years, and because I like to give back a bit.
Yeah.
And also, the same with the hockey, I broadcast senior hockey and all kinds of levels of hockey over the years.
Yeah.
But you just go from St. John's to Portabass and all the different rinks, and broadcasting the games for the Grand Falls Cataracts, they were called. And that was great. I had went to Allen Cup up in Thunder Bay, broadcasting the Canadian Allen Cup finals back home. And so I was always around hockey, and my kids played hockey, involved in hockey and that kind of thing. So that was good. And same with baseball. So I was lucky enough to be recognized and inducted and honored to be a part of the baseball and the hockey Newfoundland and Labrador Baseball and Hockey Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Quite an honor.
Yeah, very much an honor.
Yeah.
So, and that's the other thing I found interesting. You saw I guess, and hockey's taken different forms here, right? So I know there's, the Leafs have been here, Winnipeg's been, different franchises have been into the city.
Yeah.
What's happening now, and where do you think it's going? Because, it's interesting, I'm sure, I was talking to Blair, our good friend, before last night when we got in. I said, Blair, what's going on with hockey here now? Because
they're part of the Quebec Maritime Junior A Hockey League.
Yeah.
And that's 20-odd, 30 teams. I'm not quite sure the exact number. So the Newfoundland Regiment is the team that plays next door here.
Okay.
About a 5-minute walk.
Yeah.
And so last year was their first season. They're back again this year. I think they had the 2nd or 3rd highest attendance last year.
Yeah.
For fans. I think they had the highest sales for merchandise. I think they had the highest sales for 50-50 draw. So that's important for the locals, for the fans to get a chance to win some cash.
Well done.
But they had a great year last year, and I think it's only going to grow.
Yeah.
Because it was a lot of politics in everything, but hockey, same thing. You had the Maple Leafs for all those years, and they want to get closer to home. They had Winnipeg, which was a fear hike, bringing their players back and forth from St. John's. But this Junior A thing, I think will work.
It will work.
Yeah.
Well, and the market, the market and the interest is here. So I think that's what the key is.
And you got some great people like Glenn Stanford and his team running the team and that kind of stuff.
Oh,
and
good.
Glenn is recognized across North America and professional hockey hockey circles as one of the top executives in the country and the U.S.
Oh, good.
Yeah.
Hockey's always, the hockey ownership sometimes is, I always call it, it's kind of a free-for-all, and whether it's in the NHL or whether it's in junior hockey, you get some real characters to actually end up owning some of the teams, right? And, I've been lucky enough to, when I was building a property up in Ottawa, I was lucky enough to meet Eugene Melnick.
Oh, yeah.
right? You know,
Yes.
and I spent some time with him and
He had
got to know
a
him.
great run at it.
Yeah. And, you know, but the character, right?
Yes.
You know, and my day, I grew up with, in Toronto, I grew up with Harold Ballard.
Oh, wow.
You know, and Harold Ballard and Dickie Duff was one of my
Yeah.
coaches. So as a young kid, very
I like
small kid.
Dickie Duff when he played for Montreal, not so much when he played for Toronto, being a Habs fan. But they're great characters and
Yeah.
good for the game.
Yeah, they were good for the game, but I think, you know, the fact that they were characters kind of made the game better. You know, because
Yeah.
people, you know, we used to go to the gardens and watch them, you know, and they themselves were a show, right? And you know, so you know, here, you know, you have the team now. You see it actually growing. Like, you see the growth of it now, because you know the province is growing, right? The province is on the uptick right now.
I think right now, economic-wise, I think the next 20, 50, now to the next 50 years is going to be very exciting. Like, you got the Baden Nord oil project.
Yeah.
Hopefully we'll start in the next year or so and they're doing the work now.
Yeah.
That's going to be many billions of dollars for the companies, but also for the province, the federal government, the Newfoundland and Labrador government, and so on.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a big project, creating many hundreds of jobs and lots of spin-off, probably two or three times more. And on Monday, tomorrow, I understand they're going to make the official announcement that Quebec, Newfoundland and Labrador has reached an agreement to develop the hydro facilities and properties in Labrador.
Yeah.
And I hear the Prime Minister will be here for that as well tomorrow.
Oh, good.
So, you know, that's a
awesome.
big, that's going to create, again, many billions of dollars. It's going to help further develop electricity. It's going to help mining companies grow in Labrador and other parts. A lot of spin-off.
Yeah.
So the prospects, and there's a lot of things happening in mining, in the tech industry. Tourism this summer is bonkers, really strong growth. A lot of people from all around the world coming here to see whales and icebergs and everything else, right?
Yeah. You got to see it, right? I always say that to Blair when I come. I'm always amazed. You know, one of the things, the access was tougher this time.
Yes.
I noticed, because it's busier now. You got to book your flight earlier.
Yes, exactly.
You're not going to get over on the boat. So getting over on the boat's a real challenge. So you got to really schedule.
And that's something got to be dealt with, because there's so many thousands of people wanting to come here this year to see our province, but they can't get back and forth.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Sharon and I tried to get our car over. We tried 2 months ago. We called and tried to find a booking. We couldn't get over on the boat to get a car over. So we ended up flying into here, and then we fly back to Halifax to pick up our car, because we left our car in Halifax our last trip after we actually came. So
and a good sign of things happening in province, and right here in St. John's, this hotel, the Jag, it's owned by John Steele.
Yeah, beautiful.
One of the most prominent business people in Atlantic Canada, and it's been very successful. The whole Steele family have been very successful, and you know, there's not too many hotels anywhere in Canada or in many other parts of the world can pair with this. You know, it's really something. So he's a real credit to a lot of the growth taking place in Newfoundland and Labrador.
You know, we came in last night, so we arrived, and there was a band playing on the stage in the bar as we walked in. I said to Sean, my son, I said, you know, wow. I said, that's pretty cool. Like, you know, and the artists were good. Yeah. Like, the music is good. For people who like the music scene in Canada, you got to come here, because every night in one of the bars downtown on, you know, anywhere downtown towards the water, you're going to find an artist playing somewhere, something, right?
And you just had 4 major concerts here with the what they call it Chicks now, Dixie Chicks, and 3 other major performers, 4 different nights, and they were sold out every night. Probably close to 80,000 people in the 4 nights went to the concert, you know.
Wow. Well, that's really
pretty
good.
Yeah.
No, it's, you know, you can feel the change. I can feel the buzz, because I've been coming probably about 18 years I've been coming here, you know, off and on every year. You know, and I met, you know, like I mentioned, Blair in the middle, but, you know, I can feel the change in the buzz and the development. You can see it kind of happening, which is great. Yeah.
And Blair is part of the Mount Pearls and Newfoundland's sports culture. He played a lot of baseball. Still playing. He was playing. I went down to the ballpark Friday night to have a look. And Blair was over with the Mount Pearl team, and still playing. Good hockey player in his day. And a great guy.
Yeah. Baseball. So tell me a little bit what's going on with baseball. And you know what? Not only what's going on in baseball. Why was it so important for you when you were doing your reporting to actually report on the local? You know, because we have and I call it a small digital media piece, right? So we do, and it's TPL local, and it's a small newspaper. You know, it goes across the country, but we were just talking about the other day. We need to actually branch out by different area and start to highlight local sports again, because that's a missed thing, right? It was something we grew up with probably in our era, but
and it's dying a bit, right?
Yeah,
Which is sad.
yeah,
But you know, for a lot of the communities, the smaller communities, when somebody graduates high school, a lot of cases they got to leave. They got to go to St. John's or Halifax to get their education, and you know, and come in here to go to Memorial University, which is a great university. But they all got to leave their towns, and therefore they're depleted in their talent. The guys that played baseball or hockey or soccer all the way up through softball, they got to move on. And it's hard for these other smaller centers to find the bodies to keep their leagues going in.
Well, as the population's aging, right?
But in Newfoundland, community is very important, and that's why I started the Good News Report and talked about communities and the positive things going on in these towns and cities and that kind of thing.
Well, and sports are the hub, right? So that's where the communities meet around their kids, their children, and then from there they grow.
Yeah.
And it's funny, you know, I love the fact that, you know, you mentioned Blair. You remember that he was a good ass. So when you meet him down the road, that's what, you know, community is all about, right?
Yeah.
And my mom, I think I was telling a story the other night at dinner to some friends. She passed away years ago, and I went into her scrapbook, and all my newspaper clippings from football are in her scrapbook. And I never realized she was clipping them, right?
My mom did the same thing for me. I didn't know it, right?
That's quite a memory, right? It brought a tear to my eye when I saw it, right?
For sure.
I never realized she sort of tracked it that closely, right? So, it's a wonderful thing.
It's good.
Yeah. Terry, man, thanks for taking the time.
Oh, it was my pleasure, and
really
I hope you enjoy your stay here, and your wife and your son in the city. It's a great city. It's a great province, and it's good to see so many more people from all around the world. They were here from Australia, New Zealand, all over Europe this year just to see the whales and the icebergs, and the local culture is all good.
Yeah, we went out and saw the whales.
Oh, yeah, cool.
Yeah, we did. So we loved it, and we saw one.
Oh, yeah,
so
great.
Which is great. Yeah. So.
Yeah, this was they usually in July month when there's or June in peak season.
Yeah.
So you're lucky you got to see one. That's good.
Thanks, Terry.
All right, my pleasure.